Gubernatorial. I don't talk about Marvel on my channel. I think for a lot of us, myself included, the mere mention of this suffocating IP. Okay, I don't want to presume to know what's going on in your brain when you scroll past a YouTube thumbnail that says, Beige Hulk show announced, or Green Lantern Polka Dot Man team up slated for 2029. But if I had to wager, I'd imagine it's like that feeling when you're eating eggs and then halfway through, you're just like, I don't think I like eggs anymore. These shits are gross and mushy. I never made content about the superhero sludge pile, partially because I genuinely didn't care about it very much, but also partially because I was trying to stay ahead of the apathy. I did not want to insinuate that these franchises could possibly be worthy of my time. I did not want to feed into the fire anymore. Culture screamed out in unison, this stuff is important, and I said, fuck you, I want to talk about the Blue People movie, but I'm getting ahead of myself. To fully unpack this shit case, I'm going to have to take you back to the beginning. Before I was a niche writing YouTuber who has been recognized in public exactly twice. So without further ado, my name is Local Script Man, and today I'm going to draw my life. No, you can't do that. What? You can't say it's a Deadpool and Wolverine video and then bait and switch them with a trend that was basically the Hodge for internet narcissists who dramatized their own life stories and had incredibly simple revelations they thought were profound but really reflected underdeveloped emotions thinly veiled by overdeveloped communication skills. Well, okay, takes one to know one. What the hell are you supposed to be anyway? My super ego? I thought I ate that thing in the womb. You know what? Fuck you. This is my video. Hi, I'm Lucas. I was born in 2001. AD. I'm from a town called Cincinnati, Ohio. Spawning in when I did meant I basically grew up alongside the internet. I saw this online world grow up and go through phases in the same way that I was going through phases. And as I bounced around the unholy pinball machine we call life, I held one dream very close to my heart, which was to become a YouTuber. The first YouTuber I ever encountered was named Fred, if you can remember that far back, and then it became the Tobuscuses and the Rhett and Links, and Ryan Higa was my actual hero, but for the life of me I couldn't write catchy songs or viral comedy sketches. Was it because I wasn't funny enough? Or because I wasn't smart enough? Or maybe, just maybe, could it have been that I was a prepubescent 12-year-old and the people I imitated were adults with fully developed frontal lobes? God, I guess we'll never know. So I got older, I got angrier, I decided I wanted to make serious short films, so I did a few of those. I surrounded myself with writers, and I spent most of my free time picking apart friends' screenplays and watching video essays, and somewhere in there I decided I wanted to try my hand at the YouTube thing again. Not by making comedy, but by doing what I was already doing, which was hyper-focusing on stories. I uploaded some video essays about some movies and TV on a YouTube channel that was originally just called Local, and it had this little alien emoji as the profile picture. I had some takes, I had some gives, but I didn't have more than like 30 subscribers until I put out this one video called Avatar is Good and I Will Die on That Hill. You might have seen it.
What's that? You can't remember any of the characters' names? Yeah, you fucking curb. That's what happens when you see something once in 2009 and never make an attempt to reconnect with it for 13 fucking years. Dad?
Basically, the video was me semi-satirically explaining why the Blue People movie is actually super tightly written and people who hate on it are in a state of mass psychosis. The video took off. It's still the first searched thing when you type in my username. It grew my channel to like 30,000 subscribers in a matter of weeks. It jump-started my career. Dude, I'm serious. You need to talk about the movie. I'm going to talk about the movie. You cannot just bring people in. Get off my sack. I'm a professional writer. This is going somewhere, I promise. As I rode the wave of success on my channel and grew my story consulting business, the Avatar video fell further into the past, and I began to view it in a more cynical light. I hated the way that I spoke. I hated how I treated fandoms and pop culture debates like some holy war. Now that I was on the other side of the curtain, working with real filmmakers on real projects, I saw those stale debates as kind of sickening. Not because I'd graduated to art house or anything like that, but just because I was tired of consumer culture. Oh, great corporation! What will fall out of the Disney coconut tree next? I hope it's not bad like all of the other things I say as if I'm not actively giving them money. And then there was me with my big filmy film bro takes that, while making different arguments, were still cut from the same rhetorical cloth. Still part of the same consumer versus consumer battle where we treat liking and disliking IPs as a sport, waging war over popular opinion, flying the banners of multi-billion-dollar franchises that don't even know we exist, all because, durr, I'm a fan. You don't have to nod along to that. I realize how bitter it sounds. I'm just telling you that was the headspace I was in when I unlisted the Avatar video and several other videos on my channel. I was already beginning to feel like they were petty and immature, and I cringed at how aggressively and emotively I advocated for ideas that had no practical value. I would compulsively compulsively scroll through the sea of positive comments to find the negative ones, a lot of which I felt were making decent points, and then these world champion non-contributors made fun of me, and I was already having a bad day, so I kind of just snapped and decided I was going to take down all the stuff I didn't like anymore. Your image is not going to manage itself. You got to take the reins, which is stressful when the number of eyes on you keeps growing and growing and growing, and sure, I still like the movie, but I also just like winning arguments, regardless of the topic. I could write an equally poignant essay about why Avatar is bad, and people would love that too. Not the same people, but clicks are clicks. Besides, if this guy can die on a hill and then backtrack, so can I, right? Fortunately though, in recent months, I've spent a lot less time as the version of me who thinks about this shit. For one, YouTube is back to being a side hustle for me, because it's just not as fun as consulting. And then this summer I visited some friends, went on some adventures, got my chakras opened at a 1-star motel. I just pivoted. I took a breath and I closed my eyes, and when I opened them I was standing in front of a poster for the first superhero movie I'd felt called to watch in like 6 years. And I knew there was no way it was gonna be good. I can't even watch clips from the other Deadpool movies. His dialogue stirs the demons I buried in 8th grade. And they already wrote a perfectly good ending for this guy, but I suppose they had no choice but to write him a check and cover his eyes with a Mardi Gras mask and wheel him out one last time if that was the only way to make these zombified Stockholm-adjacent comic fans once removed feel anything in the year of our Lord 2020. Fuck. And yet there I was, sitting in the theater with my cynicism and my $10 frozen margarita as the lights dimmed and Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine began. This is the most intelligent superhero script ever written. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that word I just used. I say the most intelligent as opposed to the greatest or the best story because I'm not really even evaluating it as a story. I'm evaluating it as a strategic cultural move because that's what it will be remembered as. Imagine you're Disney Marvel, and your situation is you had a perfect franchise for about 12 years, and you had super smart people weaving a big overarching narrative, and it all paid off and you got filthy rich. But now all of your big stars are gone, and in theory the next phase is to elevate your B-listers and keep telling great stories until the end of time. But you quickly realize it's not that simple. For one, you didn't really develop the B-listers, so people aren't super excited to see them in the way they were about the original cast. And your whole gimmick is that these stories are interconnected, which means they have to account for each other, which gets harder and harder when you have a different world-ending event in each of them, and you casually introduce massive lore that you don't follow up on because the people making these stories aren't in communication with each other, and you figured that you were too big to fail. But then it was miss after miss after miss for years, and after a while it became clear that people weren't invested like they used to be. You had a few cards left to play, some OG characters still had a bit of gas in the tank, but even those threads had to choose between a dignified ending or a directionless spiral. You had this supervillain you were trying to gaslight people into being excited about, but then the actor turned out to suck and you had to get rid of him, which is a hard thing to recover from when the synthesis of character and actor makes up the bulk of your marketability. You had this whole multiverse thing that completely took the guardrails off your storytelling and ruined your stakes, and you tried to play it off as high-minded and self-aware, but it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And who are you to tell them how to feel? You're in the entertainment business. If people think you suck, you suck. That's how it works. Your value is decided by how much people like you. And people didn't like you. They didn't like your shows, they didn't like your empty calorie cameos, they didn't like your big stupid press conference casting announcements. And so when you jangled your keys in front of their faces and said, "Hey guys, we acquired the X-Men and all these other properties. Ooh, I wonder how we're gonna tie them all together. Aren't you curious about what our big plan is?" The people said, "No, not really. If we're being honest, Kevin, it doesn't seem like you have a plan." All we know is this. At some point in the last 2 years, Disney Marvel had to hold an emergency meeting. They had to address the elephant in the room and say, this is not working. People aren't excited about our lame-ass quantum bullshit. So the question is, are we content with never reaching the heights of Endgame again, or are we going to do something about it? And then some smart person had a realization. They realized that the conversation right now isn't about the multiverse, or this guy, or where the story is going to go in the future. The conversation, the bigger conversation, is about the survival of the brand itself. The stakes of whether or not these IPs survive is much higher than the actual in-universe stakes of these IPs, especially Fox's X-Men, which has had hundreds of millions of dollars poured into it over the years. I don't remember the plot of this movie. I didn't even see that one, I don't think. I have never once said, you know what? I think I want to watch Fantastic Four starring Chris Evans as the Human Torch. It was some dumb movie I watched when I was 7. The actual content of that movie is meaningless to me. But the idea of the movie itself, on a meta level, the fact that that movie exists, still holds some weight. Not enough to make me care about the characters, but enough to make me go, yeah, that was a movie that I maybe had some fond memories of watching. And so when Chris Evans returns as the Human Torch, nobody is wondering how they're going to tie off the emotional arc of his character in those movies, because nobody remembers, nobody cares. They're wondering what Marvel is going to do with that IP. And so that becomes the new dramatic question. And the wisdom of knowing exactly how much respect to give each IP is why I say this is the most intelligent superhero script ever written. The Human Torch dies as a joke, and I don't care. With Wesley Snipes' Blade, on the other hand, Marvel read the room and went, okay, this one has a little more cult status. Let's give him a proper send-off. And they nail this for every single cameo, if I can even call them that. I mean, these are real thematic players, but the movie knows exactly how much you know about them and plays off of your knowledge or lack thereof. Was Channing Tatum Gambit always going to speak in a French accent? I don't know. I haven't thought about that character since he was my iPod Touch wallpaper. This newer, smarter Marvel knows that not everybody saw or cared about the Loki show. So when the smoke monster shows up, Deadpool is like, oh yeah, from Loki season 1, episode 5. And it's like, yes, when you decide to go gloves off, full meta, the importance of a thing is no longer decided by the story, it's decided by the crowd. So acknowledging that a major mechanic of your story is kind of a bottom of the barrel thing is necessary. But this movie also owns Loki. This movie doubles down on Loki. I mean, I never saw season 2, but all the stupid shit from the first season that I remember rolling my eyes at, it's back. They're not denying it. They're not even retconning it. You can, in fact, kill an entire universe worth of people with the push of a button. This sparkly stick sends you to Mad Max world, just like before. But this time I'm glued to the screen, so why do I care now? Yeah, the stakes are meta, I already went over that. But the other reason the multiverse shit didn't work before was because it was an inherently meta premise, but the characters were not meta characters. How am I supposed to believe this guy, who doesn't even know he's in a movie, is fighting for the real-world enjoyment of movies? The canon of the story and its real-world implications were working against each other. Loki was not the guy to tell this story. Neither was Dr. Shit, neither was Spider-Man. Since these characters were locked into their POVs, you had to make up reasons to bring in the other timelines and cameos and shit, and people were starting to see through it. I don't know if I say this enough on my channel, but I am a writing consultant. I've worked on hundreds of broken projects from amateur to industry. I'm pretty good at it. I have a knack for fixing up shaky canon and securing the desired payoffs. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Maybe it's just my personal limitations, but ordinary storytelling could not have saved Marvel. If they wanted to survive, they needed to step through the fourth wall to engage with the real-world stakes they had accidentally created. And only one character was capable of doing that. I didn't like 2014 humor in 2014, and I don't like it now. I watched the original Deadpool movie a couple months ago, and I just remember thinking, this is too MLG. I don't know if I can stomach this. And my expectation going into this movie was that they were going to retcon Deadpool's personality a bit to make him more 2024. And I would have fully accepted that. But what the movie chose to do was the complete opposite. Deadpool not only says, "I'm soaking wet right now," as the title card hits, but he leans in even harder. He actually says the line, "He's right behind me, isn't he?" I lost my shit at that line. They know everybody shits on them. So fuck it, let's lean in. And something about that is just so refreshing. Marvel didn't need self-awareness 10 years ago. I remember hearing that stupid line in Avengers 2 where Hawkeye says, "We're fighting an army of robots and I have a bow and arrow," and being like, boo, tomato, take yourself seriously. But if there's one thing Deadpool and Wolverine has shown, it's that you can take yourself seriously and be self-aware. I mean, genuinely, I did not think those two things could coexist, but here we are. Every single one of Deadpool's fourth wall breaks feels like it was written by averaging out the internet's opinions on whatever that thing was, and then constructing a quip with the perfect ratio of reverence and apathy, which again fluctuated wildly depending on the topic. I didn't even realize this was the fire guy from X-Men 3, and I didn't care either. So when he started giving a speech, I was like, okay, not everyone gets a speech. And then Deadpool knocked him out and said, not everyone gets a speech. And I was like, yes, they know. They're on the exact same wavelength as me. I called a couple of other things. I knew they were going to kill off Granola Deadpool in some shocking way because he didn't have healing powers. I would have put money on the girl Deadpool being Blake Lively in wrinkle makeup, which didn't pan out. But my point is, in almost every instance, Deadpool and Wolverine knows how to play the culture game. For the first time in a long time, Marvel didn't just yell at the audience and say, you have to care about this. You have to care about Apollo Creep and his quantum whatever the fuck. Instead, they took a good, honest look at what people actually cared about and built the story around that. The fact that so many lines were double entendres about the actors blew my mind. When was the last time the concept of casting was acknowledged as a factor in a story? Coming from someone who checked out of all this stuff a long time ago, this is groundbreaking. Marvel got me not only enjoying one of their movies, but going to an IHOP immediately after and spending 5 hours writing a YouTube video about it. This movie also has a story. It's not just expertly crafted meta commentary. Something I appreciate is that Deadpool isn't just cool. Again, it would have been so easy to give him a 2024 coat of paint and make him a cold, calculated Dr. House, Rick Sanchez type because people like those characters. And it's been so long since the last Deadpool movie that audiences wouldn't even remember. They would have accepted that personality transplant. But no, Deadpool is a little lover boy who likes puppies. Fuck you. That's who he is. He has fragile self-esteem. He likes attention. He wants to feel like he matters. Deadpool is awkward. Not awkward in an awkward but still cool way. No, he's a loser. He has zero social awareness. The way he talks about love and connection can be off-puttingly sincere and childlike. And that is the deepest level of his character. It goes all the way down. I like that they got Vanessa mostly out of the picture. She was a fun character, don't get me wrong, but it was getting samey. It either had to be they break up or they have a kid, and the latter would have opened a whole new can of beans, so break up it is. Which feeds really well into Deadpool's self-esteem issues. Like, it's genuinely kind of heartbreaking when Wolverine says, "You had a girlfriend," and we see Wade get a little sad, and you're like, yeah, come to think of it, it's probably pretty hard for this guy to get a date. But the my girl plot was largely surpassed by the broader I gotta save my friends story. Same energy, and we didn't have to waste time with this relationship we were already familiar with. Deadpool and Wolverine is about Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie didn't even take the Bechdel test. It just drew dicks in the margins, and it's gonna make a lot of money. So take that, woke feminists. I'm kidding. But can you imagine the damage I could do if I decided to tap into that market? Holy shit. I mean, its current golden boys managed to rack up 1 million views a video by simply feeding whatever the newest Disney Plus garbage is through a machine that applies the same 5 opinions every time. Imagine that, but smart. God damn. Now I'm soaking wet. Inside thoughts. I suppose I should talk about Huge Jacked Man because he's in this movie as well. He goes long stretches without talking much, but I think that was a conscious decision because the default, if you're a writer, is to say, oh, they're both in the scene, they should both say lines. And it takes a little more maturity to discern whether that's actually in character. I don't need to see Wolverine go Sorkin for Sorkin with everybody. Just give him the occasional go fuck yourself and let Ryan ADR the meat and potatoes. The way Wolverine is handled is basically an extension of the principles I've already gone over. There's a lot of opinion averaging, a lot of meta commentary, but the single smartest decision this movie makes is in its opening scene. They dig up the corpse. They dig up the Wolverine corpse from Logan. Nobody was asking for that. Everybody was too focused on how are they going to account for this wonderful dramatic ending they gave the character? It all feels so wrong. What about my closure? And the movie just patted you on the head and said, you'll be fine. And you were. You know this movie doesn't hurt Logan because that's a different movie. This hyperfixation on canon we used to have is fading as the conversation becomes more meta. I'm telling you. We're digging up an old character for profit, so let's just own it and literally dig him up. And it doesn't even work. He didn't have to do this, which makes it so much funnier. This opening scene called everybody's bluff, and it was glorious. I am jealous of the brain that came up with this. This movie has 6 credited writers, including Ryan Reynolds, and there were probably dozens more voices in the mix. There were think tanks, there were committees. This movie is a movie, yes, but it's a marketing strategy first and foremost. Its job is to fix Marvel. It remains to be seen whether this franchise will be able to successfully pivot back to sincere epic storytelling if indeed it wants to. But for now, it's safe to say Marvel is no longer relevant because it's good. No, it's good because it's relevant. The Roko's basilisk has swallowed its own tail. We're in the 4th dimension now. Brat Summer will be immediately followed by Brat Heat Death of the Universe. Wake up, live for the moment, if that's my message. I don't know, is it? Do I have a message? Do I want a message? Is that pretentious? Ooh, but the medium is the message. Marshall! God, I don't want to hate you. Why do I hate you? Is it because you said a thing I had to endure on a loop for 3.5 years of undergrad media sludge, and you, the hero's journey? I mean, I don't know about this guy's other takes, but maybe he was onto something here. People really jive with these imps. I don't know. You get a light boner when Luke Skywalker pops up on the screen, fine. You get a little kick when some strung out character appears in another strung out character's Disney Plus show, great. Maybe hate watching is love. Maybe superheroes are cool. Maybe I don't get to decide what matters. Do I criticize everything that's beginning to look familiar to me? How is that sustainable? I'm just glad these people woke up and chose to be self-aware instead of digging their graves any deeper. If there's one lesson this movie can teach you about marketing, about storytelling, about communication, about life, it's that sometimes you just have to come out and say the thing. No retconning, no telling people what to care about. Just kick the zeitgeist in the balls. Merry Christmas, everyone.